Hello and welcome everybody. Daryl Snyder, R.C. Fischer, Sportstopia, and R.C. is FF Metrics for fantasyfootballmetrics.com. Just sharing before we went live, he is an OG, and that's a good thing. He is an original, not one of these newbies. So instead of an NB, he's an OG, and he's been in the space for a few moons. I'll let him tell you exactly, but we're excited. He not only does these podcasts with me and Brandon. Brandon's on assignment. He's actually with his family in Florida, flying back tomorrow. He's been down in Miami for a week, so he won't be here today. But we do these. They're R.C. Fisher's picks from somewhere near his wallet, in his back pocket podcast, which has been really good. And he's also a daily player production feed provider inside the Contrarian Edge Optimizer in the football world. So excited about that. Welcome, RC. How the heck are you?
I am doing great. Glad to be back on. An OG in this industry means I've gone down every rabbit hole at least once, possibly twice or thrice. So a long career of learning from trial and error on scouting and data analysis. So, and I'm here to still standing to tell the tale
That's a good thing. Yeah,
and
that's
still learning.
we learn. I learn every day, but just so people don't think I'm being shady, these are I told RC the story. These are my readers. Like first time I've been on a podcast with RC, I actually can see them and it's not a blur. And I had a pair of these. They're clicks. Maybe I can get them as a sponsor, but they're magnet. And my original pair, my OG pair from a couple of years ago, I have a golden doodle who now is almost 2.5. But when I had these, my first pair, it thought they were a chew toy. And so they had a lot of scratches. And then I just ordered another pair and they came in tinted. But hey, I'd rather be tinted and see than non-tinted and blind. So in case you're wondering what the celebration today with the shades, it's not that RC is so bright, which he is. It's just I finally get to see him. So great to dig in. Yesterday was I know you're gonna interject, but that 49er team looks like it's very solid. The Eagles look very solid. They look like they're kind of on a collision course. There were some surprises, and there were some not so much surprises. Before we get into tonight's slate, and I haven't even looked to see if Devontae is going to be active to face his former team, but it's in Vegas. What were your thoughts on week 4 of the NFL over the weekend?
It comes off to me this after the game's book, and the game tonight isn't really going to probably change the hierarchy of the football world. But it seems to me after this week and this Sunday, we got the OG teams starting to get it back together again. I thought the Bengals definitely turned around their season because Joe Burrow's calf is miraculously healthy. Said I could see it from the first, as soon as I saw him in his first drop back and throw. I was talking to somebody about the games all kicking off and bets we had made and all that and things we were seeing right off the jump. And as soon as I saw him throw his first pass, I was like, well, I guess Joe Burrow wasn't lying. He is back. That looks totally different than anything I've seen this year from Joe Burrow. So the Bengals are back. The Eagles, who I maligned last week, they starting to get it all back together again, playing physical football, kind of. I don't know that they dominated the Rams, but they played probably the version of Eagles football in 2023 that they need to win. Jalen Hurts is starting to look a lot better. It's like it took a couple weeks for some of these teams to wake up and snap in. But I think the Eagles took a big step forward. They've been taking gradual steps forward, but I think they took a nice step forward this week. And the Bengals took a massive leap forward back into the conversation. It's funny how we think in football or how we get whipsawed by what's the latest thing that happened in the prior week. 3 weeks ago, Miami was destined for the Super Bowl and was going to score 1 billion points. Last week, the Buffalo Bills looked like they were going to be headed. They were going to be the unstoppable force because they beat Miami. Cincinnati was going nowhere. Kansas City still scuffling a little bit. It seemed like the Buffalo Bills were a team of destiny. Then whoops, they lost their entire defense in the span of 1 week and 1 quarter in London. And now the Bills look like they don't have a prayer because they lost their defense. And here comes the Bengals and here comes the Eagles, and the 49ers were already there.
That was crazy. Just touching on that London game at 6:30 in the morning. I think I left you a message. When you want to play the showdown slate at 6:30 in the morning Pacific, you have to get up at 4:30, although I studied the night before. But yeah, that first quarter, was it Milano? The stud
Yeah.
linebacker. It was just like, it became like, you almost thought they all had the plague or something. Every play, like someone dropped, and it got to be like the, you're not exaggerating. It was 4 or 5 or how
Oh
many
yeah.
was it? It was crazy.
Well, they started the game with their two best, two top corners out for the game. One of them's out for the season, the one that matters, Tre'Davious White. And they were missing, to that point, their top pass rusher, but Von Miller was getting ready to come back in. And then Milano's probably the heart and soul of their defense. Now he's gone. And then, like you were saying, one after is like I couldn't even watch the game hardly because it was either a penalty on the Bills or timeout. We got to get the cart. We got to get somebody. We got to come out and have prayers every other play for a player that's getting taken off the field. So
It,
they've they are on the brink of really 2 weeks ago maybe being the best team in football as of the moment to now they're going to have to scuffle their way to even win that division.
yeah, part of me wants to think that I saw that Baltimore's changing, but Jaguars had an advantage. They played there the week before. They were there the whole week. They got to get in their routine. Buffalo flew in on Thursday, I think, and got in at whatever hour. And so they only had Friday, Saturday. I live on the West Coast. I know my body just to go to the East Coast has to adjust, right? So I can't even fathom with these athletes, although they're in shape. But I think I have to believe that had a part to do with it. Maybe they weren't fully rusted, but you got to look at that Jaguars were smart, right? They said, hey, we'll take 2 games. They'd played there before. They stayed. Baltimore, I read this morning, Harbaugh, they took off last night. They said, the heck with that. We're getting out there. On the team they play, I can't name who it is, they're not leaving until Thursday. So I'm going to look extremely, not that we want to jump forward, but I'm going to look at Baltimore next week coming off a loss, but we'll get into that later. But thoughts on that? I just had to affect them in some
all
way.
all that made sense. So as a bettor, I took Jaguars plus the points and a shoulder shrug saying the Bills off a big win, traveling to London, Jacksonville already being there. The story wrote itself and it played. But had all that been true, but the Bills had sustained none of these injuries, and Tre'Davious White was still there, and everyone was still there, and then Jacksonville, if I took their two starting corners off the board to start the game, and then I took 4 of their best defenders off the board in the game, it probably would have been the Bills winning and us going, how the heck did the Bills just go to London in a hurry and beat Jacksonville that's already been there for 2 weeks? So that all had to be a factor on top of I've never, it's been a while since I've seen something like that where literally every other play they were taking somebody off the field and they were already down key people. So, and they still almost came back and won the game.
Yeah, Allen, I've been giving credit. He fought till the end. I thought the Jags looked solid. I think Ridley spreads that out. They had Kirkens, Zay Jones back. So I thought that, those weapons, and then Ingram dropped one in the end zone, or the throw was a little whatever. He would have had a touchdown, and ETN. And I think they were supposed to be a team. They struggled a little bit. Houston went in and spanked them, which they seem to do frequently, but I like that team. I don't know what your thoughts are. I think that they obviously showed it yesterday, but I think they're going to be, when you watch them now, it's almost like, for me, I look at, okay, here's a team with leadership, even though Lawrence is maybe his third year, whatever. Like, they look like they're not a team trying to find where they are. They have an idea. Go ahead. Excuse me.
I'm going to be contrarian, like the optimizer, and say I don't like Jacksonville because I don't like Trevor Lawrence, because I think he's just a better version of Bryce Young, hyped up too much. Everybody thinks he's great when he's actually very limited, and is lucky that Doug Peterson is there to put some special sauce into him, or he'd be in a lot of trouble. He can't win games on his own merits. He's a good game manager, but guys like Brock Purdy, there's so many quarterbacks that
Oh,
are
Brock Purdy, you can
that
bring
are
him out.
yeah, that are top guy that are weren't top picks from in and around that same draft period that are better than Trevor Lawrence is.
You know what I
So
say about that? One thing is sure, only time will tell.
well,
I disagree with the Bryce Young, and it's not like we don't get on and say before these podcasts what we're going to talk about, and we definitely, that I am not going to agree with you just to agree with you, but I think Lawrence has the size and maybe not the mobility that Bryce Young, but I just think, and again, we'll see Bryce Young, we're judging him, and thought he looked a little better yesterday for the first time, but
yeah, he
I know
looked
you're
good
not.
when they were down by 40 points and Detroit was in a prevent defense and putting their backups in. He looked great.
He had his moments
Those
better than he had looked, right?
those 140 bubble screens really dazzled me. I don't know many quarterbacks that could throw bubble screens.
I think he likes Thielen a lot. That's what I noticed in he's going to Mr. Reliable. But hey, I appreciate your opinion. I'm a little bit on the pro liking side of Lawrence, and that I love the coach. You're right. Without the coach, I mean, that's like the best coach for them,
Well,
I think.
let me add in a for instance or a comparison for the context of where I'm at with Trevor Lawrence. So we're in year 3 of Trevor Lawrence, and he's not playing that great. I mean, he's doing okay, but it's not like he's taken the league by storm. He was terrible in year 1. He was really good last year, and I think it was the um, coaching, play calling, and all that, of which he can run the offense just like Bryce Young can run an offense. Um, but when you need him to win the games, when you need him to step up and be a star, he's not going to be, I don't think he's got that gear. But CJ Stroud walks right into the league, and in 4 weeks, he's better than Trevor Lawrence has ever been in any game in the NFL. And I would dare say Anthony Richardson is already that good as well. He just keeps getting hurt. So Trevor Lawrence belongs as a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I think in time we're going to look back and go, this was more a Mac Jones, Bryce Young,
Oh, don't
Tua.
put him in the same Mac Jones. Oh, come on.
I'll throw Tua in there. Tua, um, guys that got big
Okay.
school, big lauded, but they run very simplistic offenses, and Tua can deliver a damn short pass better than anybody. But you don't want him to have to get back in the pocket and try to win you a game and throw long. He can't really do it. at a high level. So I'm more into the
You don't
guys
need
like
to when you
Stroud.
got two guys that
Yeah,
run 22 miles an hour.
I mean, so they got a perfect thing, and it hides all of the deficiencies of Tua. It's a perfect setup for Tua. But then I look at a guy like CJ Stroud, and he's got a terrible offensive line, a defensive head coach, and the guy just walks into the league and is already one of the 10 or so best quarterbacks in the league four weeks into it. I mean, usually the guys take a half a season to a season to transition, the rookie quarterbacks, but now they just walk right in and they're great.
I mean, obviously, he set the record, right, for most passes out at the start of the year
Yeah.
without any interceptions, which is amazing. I kept waiting for the announcers to jinx him, right? They're talking, the guy's going to get a tip pass, but yeah, he's been phenomenal. We'll jump to Houston in a minute. Let me touch base. Cincinnati, 100% agree. Burrow, I saw him. He even took off and ran. I think he had a 20
Couple
some yard.
times. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked like there was nothing wrong. It's like a miraculous recovery. And a miraculous recovery for them means they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that definitely Chase had a trifecta, so he's definitely back in the good graces. Since well, Higgins was out, right? So it was him and Boyd and Irwin in that mix, and you know where Burrow was going to go. Eagles, 100% agree as well. So we'll add our
Apologies to Ed.
CCO, yeah, and our uh, Eagle Ultimate fan that runs Sportstopia. But yeah, I mean, that was interesting to see Kupp back. I thought he turned the wrong way or whatever. He was obviously first game back, but Bakua, he still looked decent. So I think the Rams, again, I don't think a lot was expected of them, but the Eagles they definitely flex their muscles. The brotherly shove is getting to be almost impossible, right? Are you going to stop that thing or what? How are you going to stop it?
Can't stop it. And for the Rams side of things, yeah, that was a great game played by the Eagles. 38, I think 38-22 time of possession advantage. Really beat them up on the offensive defensive line battle. But even within that, the Rams were hanging around that game. The Rams answered the opening score, ran right down the field. The Rams were hanging around that game, and credit to Philadelphia, they kept a stranglehold on it and won the game. But it wasn't like the Rams were embarrassed like the fake Dallas Cowboys, the fake contender Dallas Cowboys were. So, and my job,
Contender. Well, yeah.
so and my job is to watch all these tapes and try to find the hidden value teams that are actually playing well, but it's being hidden by whatever sets of circumstances or penalties or injury or what have you. And
Patriots.
also, well, they're just awful from top to bottom. And to find the teams that are fake, like the Dallas Cowboys, which is why I said to you last night, this is going to be the 49ers are going to smash the Cowboys.
You did. You
Um,
predicted that well.
and that's not, I'm no fan of no team. I'm no anything like that. I got to be right. I got to The only way any of us can win money, my clients and my subscribers and everything from prop bets to everything else. I'm not saying stuff just to say stuff. It's what I see going on tape. And if it shifts like it shifted with the Eagles, like it shifted with Joe Burrow, I got to notice that. Now that's a train we got to ride. So I think the Rams are still viable. They're not going to contend for a title or anything, but so I mean that's a quality win for the Eagles because I think the Rams are a quality team.
I would agree. Let's go to talk about Houston. Said I agree with you. It's been
That's a
quite
quality
the
team. That's a quality team that's gonna win that division. How about that?
nice.
And if they do win that division, that says a lot about Trevor Lawrence.
Going back and taking the jab. Yeah.
I will always
Well,
come
I
after
wouldn't. I
Trevor
don't know what the
Lawrence.
odds are. I would think you're still getting good money for Houston to win that
got great
division.
money in the preseason when I bet the Titans, Colts, or the Colts and the Texans because the odds were so far out there and I didn't believe in Jacksonville. Then I picked up some Titans in season, but that's not looking so hot. Um, but I'm shocked at how fast I thought Stroud would be good as a rookie out of the gates and that he would pick up steam as he went. I mean, that guy, he's unbelievable.
If
I
you
knew
were
I
if
I
you
knew he
were
was
the
great.
Panthers, or even yet the Bears, who would have had that pick, right? I mean, you look
I
back and say, like, I mean, they talked about that. Yeah, what a pick by at number
that's a,
two, right?
last show I said I'm betting the bet of the year of the Jets because I'm going to get. I think I said that I'm going to get the money that was stolen from me by betting on CJ Stroud being the number one draft pick, and then it ended up being Bryce Young. So I still cannot believe. I mean, as an evaluator, evaluating Richardson, Stroud versus Bryce Young, and even Will Levis versus Bryce Young, I don't know how in the world there is one person who would have thought that Bryce Young was the best of that group. And the fact that the almost the entirety of the NFL mainstream, normal stream, NFL scouting system, general managers and all that thought that Bryce Young was the best quarterback just tells you they have no idea what they're doing, in my opinion.
I think that, I mean, Ohio State, you had stud receivers. You got Harrison Jr. there and that guy that went to Seattle. So I think part of it was maybe he had all those receivers, but that's a conversation we could go on for the rest of the show. But I agree that was a great pick by Houston. I think it's a franchise uh, making decision by them. They've got Nico Collins, they've got Dell, his friend, and they got Pierce. I mean, I think they have the building blocks. They put some other pieces there, and definitely, I've got a friend that's been an avid Texans fan, and he's got to be super psyched. Let's touch on a couple other games, and then we'll jump over so we don't lose track of that big Packer Vegas game tonight. But is a Shane fast or what? That guy, when he took off, I texted you. I mean, he veered to the outside, and it's like there were guys ahead of him, like right, like they had angles on him, and then they said it. That I didn't realize. I'm thinking, are those guys just super slow, or did he just look like a video game guy that just went? I mean, and then Hill came back and said, "Okay." I think he heard the announcers go, "That's the fastest. That guy's got to be the fastest guy in the NFL." And then Tyreek. But anyways, your comments
So,
on that's
then
crazy.
Tyreek busted one up and got caught from behind, couldn't even take it. Um, I am stunned that a guy like that can come into the NFL and destroy it for the time being when it's not like you're watching Texas A&M football last year and every time A-Chain got the ball, he ran for an 80-yard touchdown. So how in the world could he not do this? Not that he was bad. I thought he was really good in college, but I thought he was really good that he was small but a feisty interior runner that he could actually hang in the NFL despite his size. And then if the speed is a bonus. But how a guy can not destroy every other play in college and then he didn't really show me a lot in the
Didn't they
preseason. I
split
was
the time? Didn't they have another back that he kind of split the time with at A&M? I didn't know if he was a lead back, but because I played fantasy and I remember him, but I thought, was
yeah,
it
there was a yeah,
Spiller or
Spiller a couple years prior. I mean, just think of that. So Spiller, was the lead ahead of him, and Spiller can't do anything in the NFL. And every time HN runs the ball, he runs for a touchdown. That's probably going to, it's like with Bijan Robinson, is probably going to get figured out. But credit to Miami, if you can get a fast guy like that up to speed so that when he's got the ball, his wheels are in motion, there's nobody in front of him, and they can just get into a sprint. That's awesome. There's so many coaches that want to keep runners between the tackles in traditional offenses, don't get their guys out in space. Everything is about with these fast guys. If you can get these fast guys up to speed, they're going to make yards and they're going to make big home run plays. And yes, they will. If somebody is in their way or if somebody overplays guesses the side that they're going to run to and they wall it off, yes, there's going to be a no yard gain, but that happens. You're taking what Miami's doing, smartly taking lottery ticket chances that every touch could turn into a big play, where you got the Pittsburgh Steelers just try to run the ball up the middle with Najee Harris and hope that they get 2 and 3 yards a push and that somehow they're in the game with a chance to win it late on a fluky turnover. So Miami
They did
doesn't do
it.
that. Miami
It worked.
and they did it. So they're like, why should we change this? Um,
Right.
but and then
That caused
Miami,
Baltimore to get on the plane and go to London early.
yeah,
Like,
but that's most of NFL teams' philosophies, coaches' philosophies, the OG coaches. That's what they want to do. They don't want anything to do with an age like Mike McCarthy. He gets Deuce Vaughn, so they're getting blown out. So they're sitting there with Deuce Vaughn, who could be a version of Achan, and yet they put him in late in blowouts so they can take the starters out. So they put Deuce Vaughn in and they make him run up the middle. I think, why don't you copy some of Miami's plays for Achan and let Deuce Vaughn run those and see what happens? Nope. Late in the game, when they have all the opportunity in the world to see what would happen, and they're getting blown out, so it's not like there's any rules of engagement where you don't want to embarrass the opponent like they did in New England the week before. They just run Deuce. They run 5'5" Deuce Vaughn up the middle against San Francisco, where there is no room to run. So he averages 1 yard a carry, and nobody cares. And Achan is the talk of the NFL. I just don't get how these teams are run, but they're
I
pretty
think it's
predictable, so
systems.
it
I
makes
mean,
my
if you,
life easy.
yeah, I mean, that the Miami coach came out of the 49ers system. And if you watch the 49ers, they make sure that CMC gets to the outside. They use Debo I mean, that's exactly what you're talking, right? Yeah, once in a while, because the guys are thinking, the defense is thinking, and they shoot it up the middle, and then there's a hole, but they don't try to pound against an object you can't move, right?
There's
They
times
pitch,
to pound
pitch
it, and then there's
sweep.
times not to.
Yeah.
There's times you try to make plays, and Debo's the perfect example. You got to get him out in space and let him do his thing.
Even Ayuk, they get him the ball in motion, but yeah, we'll touch on that real quick and then we'll go. But the 49ers, as you said, they look like they, I don't know. I mean, I know the Eagles are good. I'm trying to think of a team. I mean, Kansas City, that Viking game, Travis, I thought his whole rest of his opportunity with thank God I didn't see her in the booth, so I can't even remember what her name is, but the singer, what's her name?
Um,
Kelchi's girlfriend.
oh
We forgot
yeah,
already. That's a good thing.
yeah, I forgot that's the news cycle is gone by now.
But anyway, did you see that injury? I mean, I thought he was like, I was
I didn't,
watching that game
yeah,
and
I
I'm
didn't see
thinking
the injury. All of a sudden, I heard he's limping and he's off the field. So I was simultaneously um, I was watching multiple games, so I didn't catch when that happened, and I was like, oh no, this is gonna be painful for fantasy people who put their neck on the line to draft him super early in redraft. And then all of a sudden he was back out there catching passes like it was no big deal.
he didn't. I mean, whatever they did, I don't think gave him a magic shot in the locker room, or they were making jokes that maybe the girl, I can't think of her name again, was in the room and kissed his knee or something, and then he came back out. But he threw his helmet. It was so awkward. It literally looked like I thought it was a MCL or something and ACL, and he came back, caught the touchdown, and so that was a good thing. But that game, Minnesota, the announcers talked about it. Last year they won every close game. This year they've lost every close game, and that was a game I really thought Jefferson went out. I haven't seen his, I don't know if it's the hamstring or something they said. So he left the game late third quarter. So they were without him. But where I was going with that, you have Kansas City, 49ers. I mean, fourth game into the season, I would safely say New England's not going to be a factor in the playoffs going forward. But what else? Do you see anything that stands out? I know I'm going out on a limb on name, but Belichick's Belichick. But how's he going to turn that team around? I look at them. What do they have? Cedric Bourne as a wide receiver?
They're the worst. Bill Belichick since Tom Brady left, and it's because Belichick thought Brady was done and didn't want Brady there anymore that they're in the predicament that they're in. That guy should be fired 5 times over, but I don't know how long he's going to get the legacy boost to stay there. But the with all the OG teams rising, the one team that is probably going to sneak their way in there just because they're so different, but I still don't think they can compete with the big boys on a regular basis, is when Miami gets Jalen Ramsey back. That's when they're going to be a cut above. Right now, that's a really bad defense. It's a really slick offense that can be stopped because the Patriots kept them contained. The Giants didn't really. The Giants gave up a couple big plays, but for the most part, the Miami was playing around with them, but the Giants didn't do the worst job in the world. For as bad as the Giants, are. The Giants kind of lingered and lurked around in that game for a little bit longer than I think anybody would have thought. And then Buffalo handled Miami just fine, even giving up a big play or two. So I don't think Miami's ready to take over the world, but you don't want to play them. And when they get Jalen Ramsey back, if they get a defense all of a sudden, if their defense starts to come into its own, because they got a lot of talent, but does it look bad. Miami can be the one that maybe can throw San Francisco for a loop or throw the Chiefs for a loop. We got a Chiefs Dolphins game coming up, not too far away.
I wouldn't want to face Miami, that's for sure. I'm sure they're not a team that people would look forward to, no defense or not. You better have speed on your defensive side of the ball. Well, let's get to tonight's game. There's some other ones we can touch on, but Green Bay Packers with Love. I think they got about the second week in a row. Watson's back. We've got Romeo. They've got Reed. They have Musgrave. So they have their arsenal. I don't know if Jones, I'm kind of like, I'll lean to you. I don't know if he's going to play, and Dillon's looked like he's stuck in cement or something. But what do you think about the Packers going into Vegas? And we'll talk about Devontae, whether or not I think he'll play, but I haven't been on calls all the way up to this one, so I get an update before my lineup's lock. But what's your thoughts on this game tonight?
I don't love it from us trying to figure out the great DFS angles, kind of in the same vein of Bears Commanders. Like, this thing has a script that could go off the rails so quickly because both teams are bottom tier in the NFL, and I think Green Bay and Las Vegas are bottom 10 teams in the NFL right now. So when you get two teams like that have injuries and have quarterbacks that are turnover prone, God only
Let's touch
knows
on
what's going to
that real
happen
quick. The
tonight.
line is pretty close, right? Is it 1.5, 2?
Yeah, it started out with Green Bay as a favorite.
Who?
Started out with Green Bay as the favorite, and then
So
it
now it's
swung
kind of
to
flipped
Vegas by a
around.
couple points.
Well, I know Green Bay lost that all-pro guard, right? How are they looking on the line? I know against the Lions that was a problem. I mean, I was surprised to look at Raiders defense and they didn't have the stats, but I watched that Crosby. Is that his name? He's like I mean, that guy's disruptive. So I'm kind of thinking with Love and that offensive line, is there any play for the Raiders defense to disrupt and maybe get a
Well,
pick six or a scoop and score?
he's been disruptive for a couple of years, and that defense stinks every year. So, I mean, defensive linemen
What I love
are
about RC. He doesn't lean in and take my lead. He's going to say what he's going to say, right? You can tell we
defensive
didn't rehearse this. So you
defensive
don't think
linemen don't matter to me at all when I'm looking at the defenses. I'm more looking at their ability to cover, uh, and what is the offense's typical plan. I mean, you can't. It's hard to sack like a Bryce Young when he's getting rid of the ball in 1 second. It's hard. It's really hard to sack Tua because he's throwing it before guys have made their second step. That's not on the offensive line. That does not on how great or bad the pass rush is. It's all on the quarterback getting rid of the ball quickly. But if you can force them into being in the pocket, then things are going to change. Um, and then if you have the corners that can cover so that they have to stay in the pocket longer on known passing downs, that's when Max Crosby and Nick Bosa and all them are going to extra matter. So I'm more concerned about their pass defense abilities, and both of
Raiders
these
have any
teams
corners
are.
out, or what's their secondary looking like?
The Raiders have their best corner is out. He's a slot corner, Nate Hobbs. But I mean, he wasn't changed. He's good, but he wasn't changing the world. Las Vegas has had a feisty. It's a feisty group that when I watch them, I go, this they're not bad. But then you look at the results, and it's like, man, they're not good either. These are.
Well, what kind
I,
of offensive lines have they been facing? Because they played the Chargers, right? Wasn't that the last game that they played, or
that was
and because I
Vegas's
thought
last
they
game.
gave Herbert some. I remember Crosby chasing him around, so I was kind of thinking that play, if Green Bay hasn't shored up their line, and it's in Vegas. I keep wanting to say Oakland, LA. It's now Vegas Raiders, right? I still always think of them as Oakland, but and that's the glasses. I could have Al Davis's glasses on today. Maybe that's where I got them from. So that could be an omen, but he always wore the dark one. But that who am I? Butka, the guy's out for the year, right? The guard for Green Bay. What's his name?
Oh yeah, Bakhtiari.
See, I wasn't even close, but I knew you'd have it. But how are they? How are they other than that? And because I know their line was not looking good.
It's not a bad offensive line. The When I look at the my metrics for run defense, we'll start there because I think it's the building block of the game, trying to figure out the game script for this game. The Raiders are arguably the worst run defense, the best to run against, right up there with Denver as a as something you can expose via the run.
Even with
The
Dylan,
the problem is the problem is AJ Dillon. The problem is the Green Bay isn't too far behind being that bad at against the run, which is why David Montgomery was such a play, their Thursday night game. So
we got to like Jacobs then.
these are two um defense. Don't write that down as a note yet. Um
I'm not. I'm asking a question.
yeah. Um because there's going to be a twist coming up here. These are two of the worst run defenses in the league. So I think they're going to both go in and try to run against each other. That's good news for Green Bay because they have a pretty good offensive line. They have a good run game when it's Aaron Jones, and then you can use Dylan in spot. There's spots you could use Dylan in. Um, and I think Aaron Jones is fine and will play. And without really restriction, and he'll probably be the key to the game and the reason why that they win. Um,
Is he going to
is there?
play, Jones? You think?
I think so.
Okay.
They're gonna try to both run it at each other, and that's gonna favor Green Bay. So then And the reason why, then you flip to, well, this is great news for Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs for fantasy purposes. The problem is that the Raiders also have one of the worst run games, if not the worst rated run game in the NFL. Josh Jacobs' rushing numbers are terrible for him this year. They couldn't even get they couldn't even run the ball against Denver this year. I mean, and Denver's a joke. So 4 games of evidence, and the Raiders have run poorly. I think they've run for 60 yards or less in every one of those 4 games for uh, one of the lower yards per carry um,
But they've gotten him the
defenses.
ball out of the backfield a lot, right? He's getting a lot of targets. So is that what they're
So
doing?
yeah, so they're going to have to get him out in the targets. So I meant to, when I was saying that the run um, defenses were the worst. The run defenses are bottom 10, not the worst. It's their run offensive metrics, their rushing numbers via their running backs that are the worst in the league. Josh Jacobs, the whole Raiders team is arguably the worst run game. Green Bay is right up there too, but that's because AJ Dillon's been the lead back, and they've played some tough run defenses, and the numbers I think are skewed where it would change if they had Aaron Jones. So I think the angle for Green Bay is neither team is great at stopping the run. Both teams have been showing that they're terrible at actually running the ball to take advantage of it. But Green Bay has the twist because Aaron Jones hasn't been seen that much um, to affect the numbers, where AJ Dillon's been killing their numbers, making them look terrible. Aaron Jones will probably change that tonight. So I think Green Bay comes out and says, we can run the ball on this team. And we can also throw it safely because the Raiders, for despite Max Crosby, are bottom 5 in the league in sacks. So they don't put pressure on the quarterback. They can't really stop the run that well. They're very exposable to a safe game plan, where if you got Aaron Jones, you can run a game plan at them, and you can have Jordan Love does not have to take risks downfield. They can keep it short and sweet. So like a Jaden Reed, this is a game more for, I think, Jaden Reed than it is for like Christian Watson. Not that Christian Watson can't make a big play. This could be more Jaden Reed action, couple of jet sweeps, bunch of bubble screens. They don't have to go for the juggler against the Raiders. They can just keep it short and sweet and simple. And I think the Raiders will try to do that back at them. But Green Bay, if they have a fully healthy Aaron Jones, which I think they do, um, for game time, is going to have the advantage. That's going to then draw the Raiders into pass mode, and then you don't know what's going to happen because Devontae Adams is uncoverable. Jacoby Myers is a great number 2, and they get on a roll and they can move the ball on anybody. And then all of a sudden Garoppolo will throw an interception and turn it all the other way. But they've been able to hang in all of their games through all pass measures because they can't run the ball. So I think Green Bay is going to play it safe. Raiders may start out playing it safe, get instantly drawn into the only way we're going to be able to move the ball is throw it to Devontae and throw it to Jacobs and throw it to whoever we can, and hope that we can just keep up with Green Bay playing it safe. If they
Yeah, I
can
was
flip,
looking at the
if the Raiders can flip that script, that's their hope, and it's possible that they can, because they
flip
have
it
all
in
those
what way?
weapons to where they get Green Bay down, and Green Bay can't try to play the short and sweet run game that they make Jordan Love try to chase them, and then that's going to draw Jordan Love into turnovers and everything. You need to get Green Bay like Detroit got Green Bay, get them down and get them having to throw the ball and not be able to run it, and you, good things are probably going to happen. Where
Well, the
Green Bay's
total's
had
46
success.
and a half, right? So they're expecting some points on both sides. I was looking at the Raider. They have one interception all year, 7 sacks through 3 games. So when I saw that after watching Crosby, because he's always disrupting in the backfield, they've averaged 1.5 fantasy points through the first 3 games. So they've obviously given up, but I know they faced the Chargers. I'd have to go back and look and see who the other 2 teams they face. So the Chargers obviously are going to put points on the board, and Herbert gets, or Bear, however you want to call him, gets rid of the ball. Green Bay on the other side, 3 interceptions, 3 games. They do have 11 sacks, and they have a defensive touchdown. So a little bit better than what I would have thought, although their total defense ranks 27th in the league. The Raiders' total defense ranks, looks like it ranks 12th in the league, which a little surprising. You talked about run games. Zamar White, he would be the contrarian to Jacobs. He hasn't ran the ball 8 times.
They can't run the ball, so they ain't gonna run it with him.
Right.
Even if Josh Jacobs retired from football before the national anthem, they ain't gonna run the ball with Zamir White.
Okay. Could be Abdullah coming in. Is he better?
Well, they'll try to run it with Zamir White. They just ain't gonna be able to. Nobody else
Okay.
there is gonna be
Total
able to.
fade
Josh
is a,
Jacobs can't run it. So there's certainly the other guys they have are terrible. So no, I wouldn't count on any contrarian running
gonna
backs
fade
there.
White, and it's odd because of RC there. So looking at Garoppolo is he's starting. They had O'Connell last game, but he's back. Love for the quarterbacks. You're saying Adams plays. I believe he does too. I think he's going to want the ball. Myers does. The 2 guys, and they look a lot like each other until you figure out which number when they're running down the field, right? They both seem to be built like the same. And I'm looking, I'm going, and if I play Adams, I'm like, was that Adams? And it was White. And then I go, was that White? It was Adams.
They're gonna get drawn one way or
Or
the
Myers,
other.
I'm sorry.
One way or the other, they're gonna get drawn into a lot of passing because they're either gonna get behind because Green Bay's squeezing them, out physicaling them, or they're gonna go, you know what, we do stink running the ball. Let's just come out firing, guns ablazing. I just don't think Josh McDaniels is that daring, but he could be. I mean, there's a lot riding on this game, national TV, Monday Night Football, a lot of pressure on Josh McDaniel, Devontae White facing his old team. He's going to want, his catches. Um, he could try to flip the script and just go, we'll just come out and throw this from the jump, and maybe that will help open up the run game. But if we try to go out and do a run game like everybody expects from Josh McDaniel and it goes nowhere, there's going to be boos from the crowd. So just when you think, why would he keep doing the same old thing that's not working? I watch the Steelers game and they do the same old thing that's not working over and over and over and over and over again. So, and I watch the Patriots do the same thing that doesn't work over and over and over. So Josh McDaniels is from that same ilk, some from that same tree. So I bet he's going to try to run it first and then get behind and then have to throw like a maniac. And Green Bay's got a pretty decent pass defense, so and Jimmy G turns the ball over a lot. So if there was going to be a defensive score in this game, I think it's going to come from Green Bay on a pick six, especially when Green Bay is gonna be, that they're gonna force passes to Devontae, and that Green Bay is gonna try to hide some coverages to jump some routes on Devontae, which I think could lead to Jacoby Myers having the best game out of anybody in this game, um, where they use Devontae a little bit as a decoy, or maybe he's more hurt and he's gonna be a full decoy, and it's Myers that ends up having the big night, or
That would make
Devontae
sense.
just
I'll
gets
definitely.
or Devontae just gets hurt on, he gets one of his billion targets and he lands funny and he gets re-hurt, and then it's going
Is
to
it a
be
knee or a hamstring or what is it?
shoulder,
Shoulder.
like I think AC joint, but I'm not sure exactly what on his shoulder it
Hmm.
is.
That could be. It could. Myers. I mean, I like
But
Myers anyway. He was out and then he came back, and
that's the last game. Devontae went out, and it looked like, oh goodness, he must really be hurt. He's gone, and then he comes back in and played like a superstar after that. He was kind of quiet before that, and then all of a sudden he left for 2 quarters or a quarter and a half, then comes back into the game with the injury and totally dominates. So I assume he's going to be able to do that in this game. But all it takes is him trying extra hard for a pass that's out of reach, and he jumps up to get it, and he gets undercut, and he lands on his shoulder, and he's out for the game. I mean, he's definitely not 100%. So if he goes down, then it's going to be the Jacoby Myers show.
okay, let's go for some darts. We've got a few minutes left. I know we've looked at this Green Bay team before. You've thrown out a couple of names. I think Wick's in there, Torrey. Got the tight end 2 on the other side of Musgrave, although Musgrave, I like him. I think he's in the mix tonight. Any on the Green Bay side, any Ronnie, I'm going to call him the Ronnie Bell plays for the rest of the year, because Ronnie Bell they put Ronnie in last night, and I did out of sentimental value, put him in one lineup. And I thought, just house it, Ronnie. But I think that was the only play he was in. But what's your
Yeah,
thought on any darts from the Packers side?
he had a great tackle on special teams. Um,
That didn't get me anything.
um, I don't think this is going to be a game where Wicks and Torre are going to have a great opportunity under normal circumstances, because I think Green Bay is going to try to suffocate Las Vegas in this game. And that if Green Bay devolves into having to play catch up, which if Las Vegas comes out with an all passing attack, no huddle attack at home with the home crowd momentum and gets the ball first and jumps out to a lead and gets the crowd against them, I still think Green Bay will play under control and be patient and know that if they just play their game, they're going to hang and eventually take the lead on the Raiders. But if something happens to where something fluky and the Raiders get up by a big score, then that's when you start to see Teray and things start to happen. But I don't think Green Bay is I don't think the game script is going to call for that to happen. So I'm more for Jaden Reed in this mix, more for Luke Musgrave in this mix, more for Jones and even Dylan in this mix
But
than
now
I am.
nobody's going to play Dylan, so this is the kind of the time, right? Like I'm talking, like who's going to play Dylan? Nobody, right?
Well, it's the same thing as
Unless
like
unless
the
they rule Jones out and then
yeah.
out of default. But
Well, it's like with Devontae Adams, if he gets hurt, if Aaron Jones gets hurt, that it is going to be AJ Dillon. So um, there's an angle there. So my angle for the game is Green Bay plays it very normal, short and safe and sweet. And I don't see, besides Jaden Reed piping back up for another good game, and he's not necessarily out of nowhere. Um, I don't, I don't see. They didn't even use it. Like I love Emmanuel Wilson. Like I wish Aaron Jones was hurt and they would just give Emmanuel Wilson the start. Then I would lose my mind. But Emmanuel Wilson didn't even play a snap in their last game.
He's
So I
got
think they're
5
done.
carries, 11 yards. Yeah, 2 carries
Yeah,
for 6 and 1 reception. So for somebody to be, you've seen how it works. I've won, tied for first twice and second once, and you got to have a guy like Ronnie Bell. He's got to at least
I
get
got
you.
2
He's
of
got to
them.
get in the house with a TD, and he's got to, he's got to score you 10 or 11 points. So
I
Wilson
got
comes
2 of
in.
them, but
Yeah.
they're not from Green Bay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go to the other side. It was on Green Bay. Okay. 2, people are still waiting in case you were going to get off now and go make your plays and probably lock in Jaden Reed and Musgrave. We've got 2 coming from the Raiders side, and I don't think it's going to be Daryl LaMonica, Cliff Branch, or
Although those
Lester Hayes.
guys,
He played on the defensive side for the Raiders that I knew, but Biletnikoff.
all those guys may tie for the same amount of catches in the game as the guy that I'm going to say, but
Those are OGs. Those are originals, OGs. But go ahead on the Raiders side. Who, besides Crosby taking one in on a
the
scoop and
twist
score, who are you going with?
the twist for the Raiders in this game, and we've talked about him in a Raiders game prior. The twist for the Raiders in this game is if they do decide to come out, change up their offense, and try to speed it up and throw a wrinkle at Green Bay, or Green Bay suffocates them and forces the Raiders to start getting into it. With most every game the Raiders have been in has devolved into them having to just throw a bunch for a variety of reasons. Um, but if I think a player that's going to get used more than he has been, he's been growing a little bit every week, is rookie wide receiver Trey Tucker. They use him on jet sweeps. They try to get him a bubble screen. That dude gets open deep. There's gonna be a week this season, within the next couple weeks, where Trey Tucker's going to get forgotten in coverage or make a double move, and he's going to be wide open on a bomb down the sidelines by 10 yards, and Garoppolo's going to plant one on him. It could be tonight, but there's also whatever percentage odds if Devontae Adams does get hurt, then Trey Tucker's going to start playing in the game more with Adams out, and all the coverage is going to shift to Jacoby Myers. Trey Tucker, if I was coaching the Raiders, I would have a bunch of different package looks for Trey Tucker in this game as the wrinkle that the Packers would not have been prepared for. So he's one of the 2 sneaky plays that I assume he doesn't have a whole lot of salary or heat on.
$200.
Yeah.
That's as cheap as they get. But he's definitely in that Ronnie Bell price category. Allows you to jam in the studs, as they like to say. You put him somewhere in there and hope he houses one from about 70.
Trey
Get you
Tucker
that
is
12 or
the
13.
Yeah, speaking of Ronnie Bell, Trey Tucker is the Ronnie Bell of this game.
I like it.
Hopefully. Well, I shouldn't say that because
Nobody's
Ronnie
going to
Bell,
play him. He's he 1.1 points. He hasn't somehow, he's got no receptions. I think he had a jet sweep or something to get you the 1-1. So who else are you going to say besides Hunter Renfrow?
not Hunter Renfrow. And
I
and
always try
and,
to get, I never get it, but I threw one
and
out there.
I'm so delighted that every time you can't get it. I mean, my whole appearance would be ruined if you actually got it right.
Well, I'm just looking down the line of live by elimination, but yeah, it'd be ruined. Okay. I'd be excited that I actually,
But there will be a time, and
when
then
I get lucky.
you'll see the lament on my face when it happens. Not one of the guys, but somebody to keep in mind is there's got to be a game where the Raiders decide to use, and I don't think he's that good, but they got a lot of stock in him, is Michael Mayer for your boy.
Oh my God, Notre Dame. I looked at him and
But
I'm like,
he's not my guy, but there's got to be a time.
he actually has a 2-point conversion
Yeah.
touch. That's his claim to fame so far. But
if there was
He's a
going to be a
great tight
game,
end. I don't know
yeah,
why they don't, I thought he would take out Hooper because he's a veteran, I guess, but
it would also be a different wrinkle than what they've shown so far. So it's not crazy to put him in the out of nowhere category, but he's
and
not my
he's very cheap too. Go ahead, I'll look while you're gonna give us this play
the
that
most
everybody's on
out
their
of
edge of their seat.
nowhere, the most out of nowhere player to throw in a lineup or two.
Meyer is at 200 as well, just so people watching know. 200. This is DraftKings, only $1 million top prize tonight, so probably you don't want to listen to what we're saying, but go ahead.
Is if Devontae Adams goes down with injury, or even if he doesn't, and the Raiders are scuffling down a couple of scores by halftime, Garoppolo's thrown some more of his famous picks. You could see Aiden O'Connell trotting out for the second half of a we're down by 2 or 3 scores, so we ain't running the ball. We're going to be throwing it every play. You could get an Aiden O'Connell night where he's the top quarterback. He only plays a half, and he's the top scoring quarterback of the night.
It's a good dart. He's not cheap, but nobody's going to play him. I mean, nobody, because
That's what I'm thinking. That he
Garoppolo's back.
wouldn't be cheap, but that not many are gonna
No, I mean that's
go there.
very contrarian. Yeah, he's 9 grand, but he performed well in his last game. And you're right. I mean, Garoppolo. What was his injury that he's coming back from?
Concussion. But there's a lot of heat. I think if the Raiders get blown out in this game and Jimmy Garoppolo has a touchdown and 3 interceptions, like if they let him play the whole game and they get wrecked, there will be quarterback change discussion. Maybe the short week won't allow it, although O'Connell did fine when he was put in last time. The one way Josh McDaniels can divert some of the heat off of him if things go bad tonight is to give the let the crowd eat cake and give them Aiden O'Connell. Then there'll be renewed hope in the Raiders. If they get blown out tonight and he just goes back to Jimmy Garoppolo the next week, people are going to be livid. So it could happen as soon as halftime of this game where they're getting blown out and he's got to do something because there's going to be a home crowd booing their every move if he doesn't come up with something. Obviously, if the Raiders are playing well, he won't see a snap. But if the Raiders are playing poorly and are behind quickly, um, we could see him. And then that would mean that Garoppolo flopped for a half. It would mean that Jordan Love probably was subdued and a lot of running plays and a lot of short passes, that he has 75 yards passing and no touchdowns because they're running so effectively. And then Aiden O'Connell can come in the second half down 3 scores and do what Bryce Young did this on Sunday and just throw against a prevent defense and rack up the best quarterback night of the group in just 2 quarters of play for fantasy purposes.
I like it. I definitely do. I mean, you have to. It's always. I mean, when you see a quarterback go down, which they do, and then you're like, man, if I just would have put in one of my lineups, the other guy, because nobody else does, because they're just you don't click on those guys, right? Because he may get you nothing,
It's like the
but he may
Jerome
get you
Ford
$1
night.
million.
It's like the Jerome the night that we had who were the 2 running backs? Jerome Ford and somebody else. It was the dueling Monday night
Nick
games, and we
Hub,
had the backups.
or
No,
Chubb.
we had 2 backup running backs, and then they both ended up having great games
Oh
because one was
yeah,
the Chubb one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's there's a path that
I think that was the Ronnie Bell night. It was the Ronnie Bell and Ford
there
in
was
that
another. I
Cleveland.
thought there was a running back, a second running back that
Yeah,
was
there was another running back, but it
that
was that
happened.
night that
Wasn't
kind of,
Mitchell? Wasn't Did Barkley go down in Breida? No, it wasn't that night. I can't remember. I just remember it
Yeah,
was Jerome Ford. It's like, oh my goodness, Nick Chubb is
yeah, that was
down,
a good.
and we had Jerome
We
Ford
liked
as
him
the
anyway before Chubb
yeah,
went down, and then
and
when
I'm
he went
like,
down,
oh my goodness.
he
Then he
was golden.
pops
I
right
mean,
in and blasts off a long touchdown run. So in that same vein, Jimmy G is always hurt, so there's that possibility. But there's increased odds because he's on the bubble, he's on the fence, and so is Josh McDaniel. And he may have to make this move. He don't want to make this move, but he may have to make this move.
yeah, they're 1-3. Green Bay's 2-2. So if if you're listening to this, and it's going to be posted here in the next 20 minutes on the Sportstopia HQ YouTube channel and Twitter and other places. We're not saying play O'Connell with Mayer and Tucker. We're giving you three.
Although that would
If
be
you
quite
do
the
that
lineup.
and that happens, you will lap the field. But I would say the probability is 0.000001. There's more chance that somebody comes back and plays out of retirement tonight, which isn't going to happen. But no, O'Connell's a good.
O'Connell Tucker could be something.
We like that. Again, we're going to be able to rewind back into this. So I would let my Notre Dame, who looked pitiful, Fighting Irish, Michael Mayer. I would throw a dart with him. He's going to be on the field more than Tucker, but some of those again.
I don't think there's any players from Louisville in this game that we can play, so we'll have to
No,
lower
there will
ourselves
be.
and use Notre Dame players.
I don't even want to get into that. We're 12 minutes over, but that was like not anything expected. So RC, much appreciation. I'm gonna take these notes and I'm gonna play in the Millie tonight. I'm in the Millie. I played in the they had a $3.20 max. It's got 40,000 on top. They've got a $5 game that has 25,000 on top. So I'm gonna sprinkle it around a little bit. I'm gonna use some of your OG wisdom. And it's funny, I just got a message from somebody that says I might want to look at a low owned AJ Dillon tonight, which RC brought up. So you don't, where you want to get different is you don't want to be like everybody. Everybody's probably going to go Devontae. They're going to look at Watson. They're going to go probably Romeo. So you got Reed. You want to be different. And if you're different and they happen to pop, I like to explain to people, if you're on a 5% owned person and they have a good night, you're going to lap 95% of the field. You don't want to be in a showdown 70 to 80% guy that doesn't do any good. Then you're 80% behind of the field, and that's what RC's out here for. Those came somewhere near his wallet. Maybe it was his wallet because we're going to print green.
And I'm getting itchy because we haven't won a share of the $1 million prize in like a whole week. So
I felt like this weekend, right? People are, how'd you do? How'd you do? Like I am so ready for tonight because I felt like, I got spoiled. Tied for first, and then second. And missed second, 100,000 by 1.5 points, tied for first, 111, tied for first, 118 with 74 people and 134 people. Tonight, let it be Lowenbrow. Oh, wait, that's not it. Tonight, let's make it I went back to a commercial there, but tonight, let's do it. I'll be texting you and I'm not even gonna may. You're gonna see a lineup and I'll send you a copy. Connell to Mr. Tucker. And I might throw a O'Connell to Mr. or Adrian Connell to Mr. Mayer. And when they go off, boom.
You'll be in heaven. Well, and Tucker would be working the most with O'Connell on the second team. So, and if Devontae goes down, I mean, there's a path, a better than less than 1% path like there normally would be talking about these things because Devontae is hurt, Jimmy G is under the gun. There's a path where both of those guys could be in a hurry up comeback in the second half and magic is made.
I like it. That's how millionaire dreams are made. So love the insight. Thank you. We're going to be back out here Thursday. So we'll be able to rehash on this, and probably when we're holding up whatever they give you outside of the $1 million check, we're going to say, RC and I and Brandon are in Catalina and we're doing the show remote. We're on the island out there. Sound like a deal?
I'll if that happens, just know for everybody that watching this ahead of the game or after the game, if I am in Catalina, I will be working on watching tape, and I will not be enjoying myself. I will only strictly be there watching game tape.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna end this recording so we can get it up for people to get these nuggets of wisdom. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Good luck,
RC.
everybody.